What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfires. Huge shout out to everybody who joined in for the finale watch party last night. It was an amazing time. If you missed it, no worries. We'll start those back up again for She-Hulk in August. In the meantime, and if you haven't seen the finale yet, please go watch it, then come back and see us. Major spoiler warning. We're going to be talking about the ending of the series and the post-credit scene. Some major reveals, including Ms. Marvel being the mutant, and of course the post-credit scene and how it sets up the Marvels. We're breaking down everything, the end of Ms. Marvel, and the major implications for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at the channel, and that's all we do. Everything from official Easter eggs, breakdowns, trailers, and reviews, to the occasional industry insider scoop and everything in between. So if that sort of thing's for you, hit the sub button, leave a comment down below that will automatically enter you to win our ongoing PS5 giveaway. If you want, stick around to the end of the video. We'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. So of course, the major bombshell reveal at the end of this series, and after she says her catchphrase of "Embiggen" and we see her get her more comic accurate powers, is when Bruno tells her right before he leaves for Caltech that Amir thought he might have powers too, so he went back and checked her genetic makeup against the rest of her family's, and to him something seemed off. In his own words, something inside of her is a mutation. And as he says that, you hear the riff from the original animated series, now credited as the X-Men 97 riff, play in the background, and immediately in some sort of synth / guitar straight out of Stranger Things, letting you know that he said it on purpose. She pauses for a minute and says whatever it is, it'll just be another label. Of course, that label is mutants. A huge bombshell reveal as her, the first mutant in the 616. MCU mutants now totally a thing, and it's all because of Ms. Marvel in the end of the series. This is also a huge departure from the comics, where it was Terrigen Mist that turned her into an Inhuman. Of course, Inhumans just introduced and name dropped in the MCU during Multiverse of Madness with Blackagar Boltigan in the 838. So it's not that the MCU is going to avoid having Inhumans at all. They're in there in the multiverse, in the proper of the Marvel Universe cinematically, but in the MCU, and because we are right on the precipice of getting the mutants, they've decided to go ahead and change her origin story to be more in line with what's about to come in Marvel Phase 5. And it's also pretty incredible the bit of dialogue they included from Ms. Marvel herself immediately, because this is all foreshadowing where society eventually goes when mutants show up. Everything we remember from the X-Men stories in the 90s, what we thought of the Sokovia Accords back then was called the Mutant Registration Act. She knows immediately that whatever sets her apart is going to make her different, is going to be, quote, just another label. And eventually down the road here in the 616, it looks like we're lining up for that classic mutant X-Men story, mutants being outcasts, not considered part of society, and the way that they're treated less than, as an allegory for the civil rights movement. But really, this has already started in the MCU already, going back to the Sokovia Accords with General Ross, following through with SWORD recently trying to reboot and use Vision, as he quoted them saying, a weapon more easily controlled, and then eventually what we saw in the series with the Department of Damage Control trying to control enhanced youths. This is already a thematic in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can't wait to see where and how this all comes to fruition, but the first and obvious question is what set up this mutation in the MCU, given her age during the series and what recently happened with the snap and the blip. I think everybody who originally theorized that something to do with the gamma radiation and the exposure because of the snap and the blip, as that being sort of the catalyst for why the mutant gene exists in the MCU, may be right on about that. And while we still have a lot of explainers to come as to how long the mutant and X gene has been there, the next obvious question is, what about mutants that should have been there the whole time, i.e. someone like Logan, Wolverine, someone we're all very looking forward to being introduced soon, but should have been around for quite some time as an extremely old mutant at this point. So still a ton of details to be established. Can adults have it? Does it have to be something where it was unlocked by the snap and the blip, but you had it beforehand, or the snap and the blip mutated certain genes in people? They're going to explain it, and that's the other major reveal from this post-credit scene. Look, Bruno is super smart. He's going to Caltech. He's obviously genius-level smart in the MCU, but there are going to be other genetic scientists across the globe who are going to start to notice this mutation as well. Basically what I'm saying with as many people, if Bruno is able to find it, it's going to start showing up a lot more. Other scientists are going to find it. It will only be a matter of time before this is public knowledge. It may not happen at once, but it'll be sweeping when it does, because presumably Ms. Marvel's not the only mutant now in the MCU. And so while a lot of explainers still to come, trust the YouTubers will be hard at work in the coming months trying to figure this all out before we get those explainers. Now, on the flip side of something completely unexpected, a lot of us did suspect we would see some sort of Marvel setup by the end of the series, and that's exactly what we got in the post-credit scene when, falling back on her bed, we see an activation on the bangle that looks quite different than anything we saw during the series. It's in this moment that you can see what clearly looks like a sort of swap animation where Miss Marvel is teleported to wherever Brie Larson's Captain Marvel is. She's teleported in to Kamala Khan's bedroom. She looks at the imagery all over, noticing wherever she is in some super fan's bedroom, says no, 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 and runs out. Now, initially, and because in the comics Miss Marvel has had shape-shifting powers, some people took this scene to mean that she changed into Captain Marvel, but upon a couple of rewatches and then the audio description saying that they changed places, it's confirmed she swapped places with Captain Marvel, which basically confirms that these indeed are the Negabands created by the Supreme Intelligence of the Kree, in the comics originally awarded to Captain Marvel, although it's not clear if she has one of the bands or has one of the bands on her. The storyline has already sort of been seeded, but in the comics they were basically created as a one-to-one for the quantum bands of Quasar. However, they drew their power from the negative zone as well as the wielder's own psychic energies. And what it looks like Marvel is doing right here in this moment, in this scene, is basically taking the storyline for Rick Jones where he finds one of the bands and swaps place with Captain Marvel in the negative zone. Of course, we don't know that that's where she was at, and we don't know that she's even aware of what happened. We also don't see any of the bands on her, but it does seem like they're taking a moment from that storyline and where we are now and bringing them all together. Speaking of which, and what's crazy about this is that after Marvel was buried with one of the original pair, they were stolen by the Shi'ar Empire, the same Shi'ar Empire that we see Professor X leave off with at the end of X-Men 96, where we're picking up in X-Men 97, and when we last saw the latest Professor X variant in Multiverse of Madness, it was the X-Men 97 theme that's credited as playing, the same way we heard it here in the show. So I'm wondering if by some crazy 20-year, 30-year delay, if we won't eventually be tying the cartoon into live action to bring this all together right now, in the here and now, in the MCU current moment. Man, if they find some way to do this thematically, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but if they can find a way to make the cartoon relevant with the characters and players they've got there for why and how the mutants came into the MCU, that would be an absolute chef's kiss, and something I think may be the point of a lot of contention and theories here coming in the coming months. It was already rumored to be a part of it. There were certain producers around that had mentioned how important X-Men 97 may be, and with the knowledge of how this may all play together with the pieces that are starting to move now, what a crazy feat that would be. Guys, let me know all your thoughts down below, about the series as a whole, about the bombshell revelation of there being mutants, how it went basically her getting her embiggen to mutants, straight to Captain Marvel setup. So much going on at the end of this series. It did feel sort of, for me, like a light redemption, and it's not that I didn't like Miss Marvel, it just definitely felt like it was for a much younger audience, which is fine, but Iman Vellani stole the show. I am so glad she'll be sticking around in the MCU for a while. You guys let me know all your thoughts, both about that, about these reveals, about anything MCU down in the comments quickly. Let's jump into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. We are still giving away PlayStation 5s every 20,000 subscribers, all the way up to 1 million. The next milestone is at 980, which we are headlong into, can easily hit by this month's end or next. So if you want to be entered to win, or for any of the other future giveaways, all you have to do, hit the subscribe button, then leave a comment down below. Because it's truly random, the more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will be announced at the end of videos the same way we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on, and as always, if you liked today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name's Michael Roman. You can find me in a couple of places, Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to original music under the name AllFires. And while I sincerely appreciate you checking that out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.